Oh, okay, let's continue then, right? So here's what we spoke about last week. We're going to be looking at USD first before we go and look at gold, right? So last week, remember, I anticipated that the market has broken out from this sideways trend. And remember, this was also an area of interest, right? And then after they broke out from this area, we then used the fib retracement, right? So we've held the fib retracement from the top, from this point, and then we up until to this zone, because this is where the market was showing that they were going to retrace. So this was our 50%, if you remember very well, where the market turned back. We were anticipating that the market was going to turn back from, and then they have a continuation to the downside direction. If you remember very well, this was our analysis for last week on USD CHF, right? This was our analysis. This is what we've anticipated last week on USD CHF. So I'm going to remove this and then we're going to go. This is a screenshot, by the way. This is a screenshot. So I'm going to remove it. I'm going to remove it and then we're going to look at the actual market. We're going to look at the actual market. What really happened? Mm, I'm really sorry, guys. I'm really, really, really sorry. Okay, so this is USDCHF, right? This is USDCHF. So what we were looking at, it was on H4. So this was the H4 that we spoke about, right? So this was the sideways trend. Let's remove this for a second, right? So this was the uptrend. I meant to say, sorry. This was the uptrend that I spoke about last week. I'm going to do the full market breakdown tomorrow, but right now I'm just trying to summarize so that you guys can understand what I am talking about, right? So this is the uptrend, right? So what I did, if you remember very well, if you were here last week, I then used the fib retracement. I hold it from the top up until to this zone, right? So from this zone, our areas which we were looking at, it was the 31.20%, 50%, 61.80%. So the market respected the the 38.20%. And I'll tell you why. I just saw this during the week, why they respected this specific area. So if you look at the 38.20%, it's an area of interest. It's an area of interest. I realized this during the week that we've got a small area of interest right here. So if you look at here, we've had multiple touches. I wanted to check even previously, if I'm not mistaken, we have an area, so many touches. So if you look at here on the current market, right? So like I've already said, that we were trading on an uptrend. If I'm not mistaken, we were trading on an uptrend where the market was going up, right? And then they broke, came back to retrace, and then we continue to go to the downside direction. Now, if you look at here, why they used this particular area instead of using the 50% or the 61.8%, here is the reason. Let's bring the fib retracement again. So if you hold the fib retracement from the top up until to the zone, you will see that they didn't go into the 50%. They didn't go into the 61.80%, but they used the 38.20%, right? Now, I said to you, this is an area of interest, right? So if you look a little bit back, you're going to realize that we've had multiple touches from the very same zone, right? So these are the first touches that they had, broke, have the same touches from the same zone. right? Here comes again another touches from the very same zone. So this was an area of interest, which I didn't see it last week. I didn't see it clearly, but I did mention that we must be targeting the 38.20% and the 50% and the 68.9%, right? So this was an area of interest where they turned back from. But I did anticipate that we were going to have a push to the upside direction before we have the next push to the downside direction. So this was just a market recap on what we spoke about last week, which I'm going to try a week each and every Sunday. We're going to start by looking at what we spoke about previously and what transpired so that we can be able to see the pairs that we spoke about that went in our direction and the pairs that we spoke about that didn't go on our direction. Now, let's quickly look at the market breakdown on it so that we can know what we are looking at on this coming week and what could possibly happen and what could possibly not happen, right? So this is the monthly time frame. On DXY, I don't really love to look at the monthly time frame because of how it is, right? I don't really love to look at the monthly time frame. Let's go and start from the weekly time frame. Let's because I feel like we're gonna waste too much time on the monthly time frame. It needs a lot of attention to look at it, right? So last week I told you, I said previously on USD we had a sideways trend. I'm going to try to move a little bit fast so that we can cover everything that it needs to be covered, right? So previously I told you that on USD we were trading on a sideways trend. So this was the previous movement, right? This was the previous movement, right? And then after this previous movement, obviously the market has been poking between the support and the resistance, support and the resistance, support and the resistance. And then the market finally broke out from that zone. As they broke out from that zone, they came back to retrace, right? By doing that, by retracing back into that zone, they were creating another lower low area. They were creating what? They were creating another lower low area. Now, after that lower low area, they broke through out of it, and then they went and created a new lower low. Then this is lower low, lower high. And then they created another sideways trend in this zone, right? Now, after this sideways trend, if you look at closely, they've got another area of interest right here, right? They've got another area of interest. So when they've got this area of interest, I would say for some time they have moved on this sideways trend, right? For some time. So there was this sideways trend that they were moving on, right? For some time. And then they finally broke out. When they broke out, they had this a little bit of accumulation. And then after they came back. So when they were coming back to this zone, I would definitely tell you that everyone will think that we are coming back to retrace to this zone before we have the next impulsive move to the downside direction. Because, sorry, because this particular area, it was an area of interest, but the market didn't do that. And the worst part, let me tell you. So if you look at here, the worst part of it is that they even gave us a doji candlestick right here. Can you see? Which was an indecision candlestick, which symbolizes a reversal when the market approaches that particular area. So we would have all got it wrong from this point because I would have also sold thinking that the market is going to continue to go down after this sideways trend. I would have thought that this is the very same thing that happened previously right here, right, on this sideways trend because they did what? They broke and retest and then they continue to go to the downside direction, right? So looking at right here, you would think this is the very same movement that they're trying to do on our current movement. So if you look at here, definitely I would say, okay, this is a sideways trend. The market has been poking between the support and the resistance, and then they broke, had a little bit of an accumulation. They are coming back to retest, and then we continue to go down. But they fooled us all by doing what? By breaking inside of the trend. So when they broke, they came back into this zone, and then now they are continuing to go to the downside direction. But let's quickly go into But don't forget that this is an area of interest, this one. So I want us to remove all this, and then we quickly go into the daily time frame, because that's where the area of interest is more clear, right? We'll be able to understand each other. Okay, perfect. So since we are on the daily time frame now, there's more that we are going to learn about. There's more details that we're going to understand about what really transpired. So the first all that I want you guys to understand is that we are sitting at an area of interest, right? We've had multiple touches from this zone. Even if some touches, I'm going to ignore them and I'm not going to focus on the resistance side, because on the side of the support, that's where we've got more factors of confluence, right? So this is an area of interest, right? So after the market broke out from this zone, then they do what? They crawl back into that particular zone. And immediately when the market tapped into that zone, as you can see, they gave us what we call a bearish hammer pin bar right here. So after this bearish hammer pin bar, everyone would have anticipated that we're just coming here to retest, and then we have a continuation to the downside direction. Reason being, it is simple, because we are sitting at an area of interest. But that was not the case, right? So the market, as they were going back to from this point, they begin to form an uptrend, right? They formed what? They formed an uptrend, which was a higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low. And then when they wanted to turn from this point, they created equal highs, right? They created equal highs. Here are the equal highs. Remember, they've already broken inside of that particular area of interest. Remember, we've got this one as an area of interest, this zone. So the market broke inside of it. They went all the way to the top, right? With what? With the uptrend that I was explaining to you right now currently. Don't forget that. Now, after they've broken inside of that area of interest that would have anticipated that the market is going to fail to break inside of it. Now, they give us what we call a W pattern, an M pattern. When they gave an M pattern, I definitely knew right from there that we were looking at the reversal pattern. The market was going to definitely reverse from that point, right? Because this pattern, when it is formed, it falls under a reversal patterns, right? Now, if you look at a little bit above, here, you're going to realize that there was some sort of like an area of interest as well, because the market has constantly had these lower lows that they were creating, right? If you look at it very well, there has an area of interest in this point. This was the first touch, second touch. This is the third touch, fourth touch, fifth touch, and then this didn't touch. And then obviously the one that we are at, it touched, right? Where is the M pattern forming? It is forming at an area of interest. Now, fine. After this M pattern has been formed, don't forget we've got this M pattern. We've got this what you call an uptrend, right? We've got this M pattern, and then we've got this uptrend right here. We've got this uptrend. So look at what happened. The market broke. So this particular neckline zone, when the market breaks out of it, they were also breaking out from these high highs and high lows, high highs and high lows, right? They were also breaking out from the higher high and higher lows when they were breaking out of this M pattern at the top. And then immediately when they broke, everyone would have wanted to see them retest and then they continue to go down, but they didn't do that. What did they do? They broke and went all the way to this low, and then they came back to retrace back into that area, and then we have a continuation to the downside direction. This one doesn't even need a fib retracement. This one, you must just know that when we've got an M pattern or a W pattern, the market will definitely come back into that zone at some point to retest before they go into the downside direction. I think this is the very same particular thing that we were talking about yesterday on DXY, which the market broke and then they have retested with a bullish pin bar. I am anticipating that at a later stage, we're going to come back into that zone of the DXY. This is exactly what is happening right now on the DXY. So when the USD came back to this zone, I then anticipated a continuation to the downside direction because we also had this bearish hammer pin bar, but there was a very huge an imbalance that was there, which we wanted the market to come back and close that particular imbalance, if you guys understand what I mean, right? Now, I'm going to bring in the fib retracement again, just for some reasons to find our next TP, right? So if we hold it from here to here, so this is our first TP, our first TP target. Let me do like this. I want this other one. So this is our first TP target, and this is gonna be our second TP target, right? So I want us to drop into H4. I want us to drop into H4 clearly so that we can see where is our next target, right? What we are targeting. So remember, our entry point was just right here, meaning this is our next TP. This is our next TP on USD CHF, what we are targeting. So if you are looking at to trade USD CHF, you must just know that your next target in terms of the TP is this one. I hope that makes sense, right? If you don't understand, you can ask me. This is your next TP on USD CHF. It's a continuation of our analysis of last week, remember? So we are continuing from what we had. So if you look at here, the market has created a lower low, lower high, lower low. They came back to retrace to this point, and then they had a continuation. So you must be able to look at the market structure, right? I want to try and see something. So let's hold it from here up until here. Still turns out the same thing. Still have the same thing. I hope you guys can see. We still have the same thing. Let me remove this so that you can see. Right? Let's say I removed, because I used this one from this point to this point to find that point, right? Now I'm going to use the second one. So if we hold it from here, from this retracement up until to this one, it still gave us the very same area, 61.80. So this is our next TP. This is your next target on USD CHF right here. We are targeting this particular zone. I hope that is clear, right? There's nothing complicated right there. It's a continuation of our last week analysis on USD CHF. It's basically a continuation. It's clear, right? Did I take a screenshot? Okay. I want to quickly check something on the daily time frame. Let's see what we've got on the daily time frame. There's something that I noticed on the daily time frame that I want us to look at. We've got an area of interest here. If you pay attention closely. We've got an area of interest. right? I hope you guys can see what I'm talking about. We've got an area of interest right here. So we've had the first touch, second touch, broke that touch, went all the way to the top, came back, touch into that zone, right? But if you look at that very same particular area of interest, we've got a bearish Shema pin bar that has been formed, which symbolizes what? Symbolizes a continuation to the downside direction as well. So it aligns with what we are definitely looking for. And then last week, I also saw something here, if I'm not mistaken. I also saw an area right here. So it is a breakout. So if you look at here, they broke, came back to retest, and then this is a continuation to the downside direction as well, right? So there was some sort of like a breakout from that point. Let me do like this so that you guys can see clearly. So there was an area of interest right here. So there was an area of interest as I've anticipated right here. So I would definitely say this was a break and retest, and then this is a bearish engulfing. Then we've got a continuation to the downside direction. That's it. So I just wanted to verify those technicals, but here is what we have on USD CHF. We are having a continuation to the downside direction. That's what we have. Okay, that's all we've got on USD CHF. We're looking at the continuation to the downside direction. Now, the question is, does it align with what we've got on the DXY? Let me know in the comment section if it does align. Does it align with what we've got on the DXY? Does it align with what you got on the DXY? Can you guys still hear me? Okay, we're gonna quickly take a break again, and then we're gonna come back. We'll look at gold. And then other pairs, we're gonna do it in the morning. We're gonna do gold when we come back, and then other pairs, we'll do it in the morning. Because some of you, I know you love trading gold. So yeah, we're gonna look at gold, and then that will be the end of our session for today. Thank you so much. See you just now.